My friend, welcome to the world's best kept secret podcast. A podcast that brings you exclusive interviews from experts all over the world with life changing work that you didn't even know existed. I'm your host, Prima, a partner for those that are ready to take their life changing work in front of those whose life or business depends on it. Please follow or subscribe for more. Welcome back. Today we have Cori. I love this expert because she is speaking about an area that is very close to my heart. I love relationships. I think that it's a fair measure of what happens with your life, what your relationship looks like. I sincerely believe that relationships can make or break it. This is my belief. And so every time I see a messenger who is having a heart for relationships, I'm very excited to bring them on because I know that the more people we can help in relationships, the more happier people we can have, the more happier couples we can have, the more impact we can have. And so I'm excited to be diving in with Cori. And if you're the person that is frustrated in your relationship or marriage, pull a stool. If you have a friend that is after 50 and is trying to figure out what next, what is that second chapter, whatever, whether that's to still be married, whether that's empty nesting that is not turning out properly, whether that's realizing that for the half of their life they were with the wrong partner, whoever it is that is on your heart right now, the best thing you can do for this conversation is press the button and invite them to be on this conversation, because Cori and I are going to dive into her 20 years of being in the weeds with this, going through her own tears, frustrations, and everything in between. And we're going to bring it back to like how she figured out what to do and how she's helping women over 50 right now thrive in love. Cori, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you, Prima. I'm excited to be here.
Could you please tell the audience what you do that I haven't touched as I was going round and round?
Sure. I'm a relationship coach for women over 50, although I do work with men as well, but mainly for women over 50. And I work with them either if they're in a relationship where they can't decide whether to stay or go, or if they've been recently divorced, or if they're in the process of looking for a new relationship. So sort of the beginning, middle, and end of a relationship, leading again, of course, to the beginning of a happy and fulfilled relationship.
Why the 50? Why the number?
Because I do feel that women over 50, that's a great question, have a particular challenge. That is, the thought enters their mind. And by the way, I don't necessarily agree with this thought, but the thought enters their mind that I'm too old to make a change, or I don't look the way I used to, or I'm going through menopause, or I'm afraid to take my clothes off in front of a person, or why did I leave it so late? And these are all huge issues when you're over 50 in a way that's very different from when you're younger. I do work with younger people, but the reason I'm so passionate about women over 50 is because I went through that transformation myself. And I remember that narrative of it's too late for me. Or if I leave my husband, I'm going to be so lonely. So that's why I'm passionate about it.
Wow. I love your story. I was on your Facebook and I was like, wow, the story is so touching. And I wonder if you'd be willing to dive in and share your story, because there's a woman out there right now listening to us and her life depends on that story. Would you be kind
Yes.
enough to share it with us?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. I love sharing my story. So I actually got married quite late in life. I got married at the age of 40. I had already had a career both in the music business and as a teacher of the deaf, so deaf children, and their families. And so I was married late. I had two kids very late. And I believed in the princess story, the story that in order to be happy in life, you have to find that dream relationship. And I thought I had found it. But one of the things that originally attracted me to my husband was really his trauma. And there's a phrase in the relationship world called trauma bonding, where you see someone who's struggled the way you have, and you're attracted to that, and you see what it could be. This is a very dangerous frame. What it could be rather than what it is. Anyway, we got married. The beginning was fine. We had kids, and it started to get progressively difficult. The main thing that happened was I wanted to fit in with what he wanted. This is sometimes what we do at women. It's such a dangerous trap. He wanted me to give up my music because he didn't want me out late at night. He wanted me to cook. He wanted me to fulfill various roles. Now, this is not, I really need to emphasize, this is not to disrespect him. He is a human being with the needs he has. But what happened was I too easily shifted who I was to become the version that I thought he wanted. So like, Cori 2.0, not the person who he really married. And that was sort of the beginning of the end for me, because as the years went on and I kept suppressing my true dreams and desires, we began to drift apart. We argued a lot. And for many years before I left him, I was thinking, this isn't really working, but I'm going to do something about me to make it work. Which is great, right? You want to change yourself. You want to find out what's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a time limit on that. Because if you keep trying to change yourself and the relationship isn't shifting, I would say that's a bit of a red flag. So eventually at the age of 57, I went to see someone. She happened to be a Buddhist leader. I've practiced Buddhism for a number of years. And she said, look, make a decision that you're going to make a decision within 3 months. I committed myself to the decision. It was the 26th of April, 2014. I made the decision that I was going to make the decision. And I woke up that morning and I had no idea what to do. And as I sat down to meditate, pray, whatever you want to call it, this voice came into my head that said, you have to stand alone. And I thought, right, scary as hell. So I left him. I told him I was leaving. Took about 6 months to move out. Around that time, I met an old friend who had started a network marketing business. I used to be in network marketing. And she said, your business will grow as big as your mindset. And that phrase, that one phrase, your business will grow as big as your mindset, was kind of the linchpin that enabled me to realize that when we transform deeply in our own life, everything changes. So that was the first part of the story. And as I continued, I started to realize I had a gift for hearing and understanding women. And I started to develop my coaching alongside of having had this very strong practice as a Buddhist and having been in a leadership role for a number of years. And so I sort of drifted away from network marketing and became wholly invested in what my passion is and what my role is, my life purpose really, which is helping women overcome whatever it is that's holding them back. More importantly, find a relationship where they feel adored. Not just a substandard relationship, but a relationship where they feel adored. And so I developed that. I found my own relationship. It took a long time. It took me about 8 years to find my guy. And we've been together for 2.5 years now. It's absolutely amazing. He totally gets me. He supports me in what I want to do. He's not afraid of my entrepreneurial personality, or that I'm a risk taker, or that I'm playful, or that I have fun. Those things didn't match with my husband. And so just to really close off this part of the conversation, compatibility is the piece that people often forget. We think we marry for love, but there are steps. There's attraction, There's mutual attraction, there's commitment, and then at the top of the tier is compatibility. And if you don't have that, excuse me, but what the heck are you doing? What are you doing? I see you're scribbling notes, Prima.
Yeah, because I really want to get it on all of it. I have a question for you. You said 8 years later you found someone else, and it's everything you like. It made it worthy of every process, every pain, everything you went through. Does it also mean that during the 8 years you became another Cori? Did you have to work on some things before you met the guy?
I think you know the answer to that, and it's an excellent question, but absolutely yes is the answer to that. And it's not that I became another Cori, it's that I became the real Cori. It's that I took the time to step into who I was, what I really want, and having really, this is something so many women lack, the confidence to own it, to own who you are, and not think there's something wrong with you, and not think there's something wrong with you if you're not perfect in some way, or if you like to make up goofy songs in the kitchen that might annoy the wrong person.
I do want to ask if the same Cori 8 years later had chosen the first husband, how would things have been different? Was it just like the wrong person for you, or was it that you were both not ready, or was it that you were not ready for this person? Because in your video, which I watched, you were like, he was an amazing man. And I'm like, okay. So I'm just wondering at this point, was it more about you not being at a point where you would make the decisions, or was it just the wrong match? I'm just wanting to understand.
It was both, really, because what happened was, I think we're programmed very young, at least I was, as a young woman, that we find the prince on the white horse. He comes and sweeps us off our feet, takes us away, and everything's going to be happily ever after. Okay. So that's the Prince Charming, the prince on the white horse syndrome, whatever you want to call it. And you become the princess. And princesses, as opposed to queens, princesses are a little bit helpless as an archetype. There's a save me thing going on. So I think that it's not that I wasn't ready, it was that I wanted love so much that I wasn't prepared to look reality in the face, that I had already lived a lot of life by the time I met him, but that I was willing to so quickly compromise who I was to the point where friends would say, friends I got in touch with after we divorced, one of my closest friends, she said, when you were with this man, you became someone I didn't even recognize. And that's why I ceased being in touch with you. That's scary. So I think there's that I compromised too quickly. And I think that the love, what we call love, which is really a form of infatuation or possibly trauma bonding, so powerful. And it is powerful. When there's mutual attraction, it feels like it's the only time in your life this is ever going to happen. And this is the only person it could ever be. So you do everything you can to save that relationship, only to find out as the years go by that it's not that simple. So I think it was that perfect storm, really, of that conditioning, plus the desire to have someone, plus the fact that I found him. He was handsome. He's very intelligent. I say is because he still is. He's very intelligent. He's a national news journalist, so credentials. He had money. He had, on paper, he had everything. But to be honest with you, Prima, who cares about someone who has everything if they don't get you,
Mm.
if they don't understand you. And if you're not, I think also what happens in a relationship is you start to learn about how much someone has to give at any point in a relationship. There's a give and take, right?
Mm.
But there is also a thing of one person giving more than the other sometimes. Now, I am not going to say I gave more, but there were areas where I felt like my husband was in charge, and that wasn't right for me, for the
Mm.
real Cori,
Mm.
the truly empowered, authentic Cori. That wasn't right for me. And I think that's another thing that happens to women in relationships. We financially disempower ourselves.
Hmm. Would you like
Very
to say
serious.
more to that? Is that, could you give, like, there's a woman listening going, I wonder if that's me. I wonder if that's where I am. Is there more you can add? Also, I would love to touch more about the trauma bonding and possibly how someone can reflect and say, is it trauma bonding? And maybe early on seek healing and see if that can help.
Right. Okay. So what was the first? The first
The
question was
first was you said you felt empowered. You felt
economic.
like he was giving, but you felt like it was disempowering. I wonder if you wanted to touch, if there was more you could share for someone else to kind of
Sure.
see if that's where they are.
So, with respect, if you want to know whether you're empowered or disempowered,
Mm.
do you have joint bank accounts? Do you have equal access to the funds? Does your partner or husband willingly agree to you pursuing whatever you want in terms of your own livelihood? Do
Mm.
they want you? Do they actively encourage you to become everything you can? Now, I'm making it sound like it's the husband's fault. There are, of course, cultures where it is, where
Mm.
women really don't have power, and I respect that, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about um, when women make the choice to not challenge that status quo,
Mm.
the economic status quo. When none of the bank accounts are in their name, when the partner is the sole breadwinner, but you don't have equal access. I spoke to a woman recently whose husband didn't want her to go back to college, didn't want her to train. That's called, I'm sorry, but that's economic abuse
Mm.
in my world, right? So I hope that answers that part of the question.
It does.
The second part of the question, remind me what that was
I
in
would
respect
like you to
of
talk
bonding.
more to the trauma bonding
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Okay.
how
So,
people can tell if they have it or don't, or, how to kind of really tell. There is someone like relying on us to kind of get direction today. I think that would really help.
okay. So I love your questions, Prima. They're really good. So I want to first qualify this by saying I am not a
Mm.
psychotherapist, but trauma bonding, as I understand it, is when you are attracted to someone. Let me just put it in coaching terms, who is
Mm.
vibrationally a match for your mutual lowest common denominator, which is
Mm.
how much are you a victim of something. So if you were, for example, hypothetically to meet someone who had lost their parents or who had suffered a suicide in their family or something like that, right? And you
Mm.
go, oh my goodness, I totally understand you because my life experience has been awful too. I
Mm.
can help you. I will be there for you. Almost like a mother,
Mm.
or you're like both in it together because you both had such horrible things happen to you, as
Mm.
opposed to how amazingly great can we make each other and how can we meet each other at the highest level where we can support and encourage each other rather than commiserate.
Mm. I love it. So there is bonding that can happen because you all feel victimized, and that really just gets a way of being on the same frequency, and you feel like you're a match, but really you're
Yes.
being, it's like women who are friends because they like gossiping about their husbands or something like that.
Yes.
Okay.
You've totally got it. You've
Okay.
totally got it.
So
That's
then
exactly
I
what it's
have a
like. And I
question.
love your use of the word, sorry to interrupt, but I love
Mm.
your use of the word frequency because it's absolutely about frequency.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just believe everything at this point is about energy, and it's really helping because trauma bonding can also feel like love. It can also show up as love, and if we are not careful, we can call it love. Let's talk about if both people are attracted together because of the trauma, because of whatever frequency or energy they feel from each other, and say they decide, they've all decided to kind of do the work miraculously at the same time, would that then change the dynamics of the potential result? Or what has it been in your experience when people meet like that? Are they like destined to fail? I don't know I think there has to be a disclaimer that whatever we are sharing is Cori's experiences through her life and working with clients, and this does not have to be the absolute truth. And so if you're listening to this, please do not take 1 second of Cori and hold her hostage, because she's just sharing her life, her experiences, and she's not God. She doesn't know what will work or won't work for you. Cori, the question is, if people are bonded by trauma and they heal, what could happen if both heal, if one person heals? Give me the dynamics of what if they were all willing to do the work, or versus if one wasn't. Take me there. I feel like it's a nice.
It's interesting you asked that because I do work with couples, not as frequently, but I have worked with couples. And yes, absolutely. If both people do the work, that's so powerful, isn't it? That's so wonderful. If both people are willing to do the work. In my world, I find it's very rare. But if you are in that situation, I applaud you. I commend you. That is the best possible outcome. Because my job isn't to go around splitting up relationships. I would much rather, and in fact, if you were to work with me in the what I call the doubt to decision space, the space where you decide whether you're leaving someone or not, the first course of action would be to see, can this relationship be saved? Always that's the preferable outcome if it really can be. But expecting someone to do the work that you're willing to do, doing the work is a self-elected process. It's not something you can force someone to do. It's not something you can expect someone to do. It's not something you can assume someone will do. You have to both come to that table together and say, yes, I'm willing to make changes in myself. Because the changes happen in relation to the other person, but the changes are within you as an individual. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And so where my head was going was more like, okay, you do the work now, and the whole versions of yourselves are like strangers. You're like, okay, let's do it. Let's end this. Because you're all in that place where you're like, no way. Like, how did we even get married to each other? Or one person does the work and gets to a point where the other person cannot, and it ends anyway. But I think the most beautiful result would be if both people did the work, if and anyway decided that being together was the best thing. And I think that is like now bulletproof type of thing.
Yeah, it means you're growing together and it means you're both willing to evolve together. But for all the desire in the world for people to have a better life, I actually think from a percentage point of view, the number of people who are willing to really do the work, what I would call, from a health perspective, high performers, is statistically smaller. Sounds very damning, doesn't it? And I don't mean it to be so, but I don't think you'd be listening to this podcast unless you were someone who wanted to do the work. And I would say that puts you in the 20%, not
Yeah,
the
this
80.
podcast attracts people who they just know there's more. There's more love. They could be better in their marriage and they want to tap on that. So we're definitely talking to the right person. Cori, I know you guide women, you hold by the hand and you help them kind of after 50, whether it's at the start, the middle, the end of the relationship, you help them journey through that. I was wondering if you wanted to take us through what it takes stepwise, like 1 to 3 or something, in as far as if people are confused, or even the different phases of people you work with and how that process typically maps out. Because there's someone wondering if they like how you do what you do, and I would love for them to see a system so they can envision themselves going through it, if it makes sense.
Yes, that sounds wonderful, Prima. So first of all, I will start with, again, the disclaimer that for each individual, there are going to be differences because you're all going to be at different points in your journey. But my framework is called choosing her. And what that means is you are choosing to become the woman who is the fullest, most empowered version of herself, who is happy with who knows who she is and is happy with what she is. And I've delineated 5 aspects to that. And just to do it briefly, they are the awakened woman, the alive woman, the fulfilled woman, the open-hearted woman, and the adored woman. So the adored woman is the culmination of all the previous steps. This is to give the woman a foundation so that when she steps into a relationship, if that's what she wants, and I'm assuming that's why a woman would come to me, although after the process she may decide differently, but if that's what she wants, that the relationship is one where she feels adored exactly as she is for who she is. But as women, we need to choose that. We need to choose to become that person. So awakened, for example, means, knowing your purpose. Who are you? What is it you want to become? That sort of projection of the future self. The alive woman is healing the mental, physical, and spiritual. The fulfilled woman is the woman who's going out there and pursuing her passions. And the open-hearted woman is the woman. This is one thing I find a lot with women over 50. There's this it's almost like this curtain has dropped. Like they can't open themselves up to love because they're scared. So we do a lot of work around that. And then the adored woman, well, that's kind of the result. That's the icing on the cake.
So let me bounce back, choosing to become her, and kind of see if I'm getting it or if I'm off, so that you can see how we perceiving the work you do. The first woman is the awakened woman who knows her purpose and she knows why she's here. Or maybe she's on that quest where she's kind of finding out what her purpose is, what her values are. Like she is aware to the idea of knowing herself more so that she can show up at her best self. Is they alive? Is it alive or
alive?
The alive woman is a woman who's doing her healing work. She knows there's some things to fix and she's fixing it so that she can ultimately tap onto whatever next phase or next life or whatever potential God put her on this planet to tap in. So alive means I am doing my healing work. I am doing the work so I can step into the woman I know I need to step in. The fulfilled woman is the woman on a mission. She knows her purpose. She's done her healing. She's on a mission. 4 is the open-hearted woman. Is the woman that has seen it, gone through it, and at this point, they're open-hearted. I think I'll need more context to that. Are they open-hearted in as far as open to new love? Or are they open-hearted in as far as love is accessible to whoever is with them? Is it open-hearted as in I am available to new love? I'm not sure that you will tell me. The adored woman is the woman that has it all. They know their purpose. They've done their healing. They're stepping into the mission, or they've already stepped into the mission. They are open to being adored the way that they should be. They have all of the five. So I would imagine that the adored level is when you graduate to be.
Exactly. Oh my goodness, you are very smart.
But I was gambling around open-hearted, or where did I miss? What did I miss so that you can like
I
chip
don't
in
think you
those?
missed anything. I just would say that with the alive woman, that part is also about feeling really good. You know, feeling good physically is part of it, because it's not, you know, I like to say there's the games of life are health, relationships, and money, and that all of those things work synergistically. So it's a way of making sure that you've got those in balance. You know, if you walk around feeling awful physically, not concentrating on your health at all, it's going to be harder. Doesn't mean you have to be perfect. This is something I do want to tackle, is that everyone thinks they have, this is a framework. It doesn't mean you're going to have it all done by the time you get to the adored woman. It means that you will have a framework that you've been through that you can revisit whenever an aspect of it unravels. Does that make sense?
It's like lifelong work. You have to keep revisiting where
It
you
is.
feel you want more. If it's the purpose, if it's the fulfillment, if it's the alive, if it's like you now know where to look. So it's easier for you to go and say, I don't feel really fulfilled in this part. Let me go revisit this part. I love it. I think I love this one. Tell us your experience with even yourself or your clients, what you've seen happen after people have awakened to this and kind of gone through it in your programs. I want the listener to know what is possible for them. What can happen? Imagine I'm 52, something happened, maybe, I don't know, I'm an empty nester, or I'm a widowed person, or just like you, it's time to step out, but I'm 57. What is on the other side of the hype? What is the other side of, what is it called? Like, I feel like there's a tunnel and it's very dark, and you're on the other side, and us, we are on this side of the dark one. So can you tell us what is on the other side? We would like to kind of see, imagine what is possible for us, because the work, I think, is a lot. But what is on the other
I'm gonna
side?
keep it really simple, Prima. There's
Mm.
two things. You're gonna feel great, and you're gonna find love. Now, I cannot and would not ever, in full integrity, guarantee that someone's gonna find love, but you are so much better positioned. It's like if you want to increase your odds and you go through a program like this, the worst case scenario is that you're going to feel great about yourself.
But I also
Best for life, and you're going to be feel more attractive and feel excited about life. That's the worst case scenario.
I do think, though, that the more excited you are with yourself, the more love you have for yourself, the more compassion you have for yourself, the better you can be with anybody else. So I do personally believe that the best gift anyone can tap in is the gift of unconditionally loving themselves and knowing that they deserve the best. And if that person never showed up, being okay with just being yourself, I don't know that there's anything more fulfilling than that, which I think is what they get.
That is what they get. That is what they get. But here's another thing that we haven't touched on, is that when you achieve that for yourself, this is key, your discernment is better. Because if you scroll back to the beginning when we talked about my story, my discernment was not great. Look, I'm grateful I was married for 20 years. I'm grateful I had two amazing kids, but I'm not sure I guess I chose the right person for that time in my life. But had my self-respect been higher, or my belief in myself been higher, or had I known more about who I was, I'm not sure I would have compromised as much as I did. And when I say compromise, please don't get me wrong. It's not that he's a bad guy. It's that he wasn't the best guy for my life and my mission. And I think we do this. I see it all the time on the dating scene, that people meet someone and there's attraction. And so they think, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this work because I'm attracted to this guy. And that kind of attraction is rare. It might be 1 in 10 people. It might be 1 in 100 people, right, that you're attracted to. So you think, this must be the one. I'm going to become a contortionist and bend myself into the person I think that they want. So you're not going to do that when you've been through this program, because that's no longer who you are. I honestly, Prima, I work with the most incredible women who've had successful careers. They're beautiful, they have money, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying you have to be like that to do this work, but then they go out and they find themselves dating a narcissist. It's like, how did that happen? It's because there's some part that just needs adjustment so that they can have more clarity. What we tend to do as humans is we let externals determine what we think we can have. As I said to you about the awakened woman, it's about being able to see that future version of yourself in all her glory, even if you're not there yet, but being able to hold that vision. That's what's powerful.
Wow. There is someone now listening going, wow, I wonder if there is an opportunity to work with her. This episode may not air in a month or so, but this will be a lifetime asset.
Right.
What would you say is the best way to navigate your offers at whatever time, a year later, or whenever the listener is catching this? What is the best way to kind of slide in and understand what you have to offer at that point?
Well, for starters, follow me on Facebook. And if you feel called to reach out, you can always send me a DM. I do answer them. And we can hop on a call and we can discuss, what are the next steps for you based on what you need, where you're at, and of course, what your budget is as well. Because I have a whole range of offers, from just an online course to working one-to-one with me, which would be the highest level.
I
So
love that process.
yeah.
Send me a message. Let's first see, like, are we even a fit to jump on a call? Let's jump on a call. Let's really see, like, what's the best thing that Cori has that may fit your situation. And for that, you can then talk about what she has that may serve you. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Cori, we are winding up, but there is a woman on the other side saying this: too late. I am too old, or I am too, whatever the word is there. What are your last words to them to kind of help them shift if they can and take a chance on themselves? Or what would you say to someone in your state who is very indecisive and they're like, oh, it's too late, or I'm too this and too this? They're just indecisive. There's that gray or darkness that is barring them from stepping into that level of knowing, and just knowing that you deserve what you deserve, and until you see it, you're not settling. What could you say to them as your final words?
I will say this, and this is called a velvet slap. It's one of my signature things, a velvet slap. Like it's gentle, but it's direct. If you want to change your life, change your story. Stop telling yourself that story that you're too old, too fat, too ugly, too dumb, too whatever it is, because it's absolute nonsense. But if you keep telling yourself that story, you will believe it. Please trust me when I say there's no judgment in what I'm saying. I've done it too. Okay? I have done it too. but now's the time to stop it. Now's the time to stop telling yourself that story because it's not serving you. And actually, it's not true. For the right person, you are the right person.
I love it, Cori. I'll end with this little one. When I turned 30, everyone was telling me I'm getting too late to be married. And all my friends were getting married. Some were already divorcing. And everyone was like, Prima, what are you up to? And I'm like, what do you mean? Where is the guy? I'm like, there's no guy. And they're like, really? What's your mom saying? And I'm like, nothing. Like, she doesn't care if I bring the guy tomorrow or next day. Like, your parents must be divorced. I'm like, they're not. And all my friends got married and pressure got pressure. And so I decided I was going to make a list of this guy. And so every year that passed by, I put 5 things on the list. He must have this, have this, have this. One time I found myself, I had like 2 full cups of stuff that he must have. And I was like, my best friend saw it and said, Prima, 2 full cups back to back. Who are you trying to marry? A robot or something? In that moment, I thought to myself, wow, 2 full cups of things. This might be like 200 things on the list. Who is going to be the man that has all the things? And I remember she said, I can guarantee you, Prima, there's no man on the planet who is living and breathing who has all of those things. And in that moment, I flipped around the coin and decided that I was going to be those things. I thought that wasn't a man's list. That was my list. Because I realized, hold on, there's no man who's going to fill this list. Amazing. Let me become that list because I can. And day by day, I became that list. I forgot about men. I kept just adding things to that list, forgot about it. And I think it was like 5 years later or something. I was 39. My husband showed up. He read my one post on Facebook. That's how I met him. And this man ticked every box and then had even more things that were not on the box. On my wedding, my friends were all crying. And I was like, why are your friends crying? And I'm like, because they know about the list. And so what I wanted to say lastly is to Cori's message, until you become your soulmate, it's not happening. Only you can become what you want. Once you become what you want, energetically, you're going to be a match for someone who will most likely be that, or at least be at the same frequency. And I think the best gift you can give yourself is allow yourself to become your soulmate. I appreciate you for today's hanging out with us. The most gift you can give me, the most gift you can give Cori, the most gift you can give the work on my heart is to choose one woman who is over 50, who is in a state of transition. Clearly, their love life is not where they want it. And what we want to do today is help them, give them the clarity we have received from Cori about how to think about that, how to think about the next step, how to get out of this tunnel and kind of get to the second half with more clarity. And you have the capacity to save this woman's life by just tapping share and getting into their private space. Is it WhatsApp? Is it Messenger? Is it, I don't know what people use these days. Where are you connected? Is it SMS? Drop this link and ask them to join this conversation, because you and I can touch as many lives as possible. The way that this platform works is you share this message with one woman, who shares it with another woman, who shares it with another woman, who shares it with another woman. And if this message is coming to you, please don't break the thread. Pass it on to another person. Someone sent you this as a gift. So don't break the chain. Pass on the information. My dream is one day I will bring on the Oprahs of this world on this show to be the guest of the show. But I need to answer the question, how big is the community? You have a big part to play in this. Each subscriber, each review, each comment, each follow counts a lot. You, me, the higher power, the guests, we are all doing this together. So whatever you can do to support this work is heavily, heavily appreciated. Thank you for today. Have a beautiful day. I will see you in another episode. Thank you, Cori, for being such an amazing guest and for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you, Prima, for your energy.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye.
That is it, my friend. To listen to more exclusive interviews like this one, simply go to the World's Best Kept Secret podcast.com and select interviews based on preferred topic.